Hello, and welcome to an overview of the 2026 movie film lineup that we have. And we are excited to delve into what the stars have to say about these blockbuster hits, hopefully hits. My name is Jess. I'm from Spicy Gemini Astrology, and today I am here with Marissa of Marissa Lee Astrology.
Hi, so excited to be here.
Yeah. And so Marissa and I have been working in various capacities looking at music and movies, but something I really appreciate about what Marissa does with her astrological practice is she has studied the movie. She has studied the albums, and she has actually been able to identify pretty tangible astrological patterns related to what makes a success versus a flop. And so before we get into the 2026 movies, Marissa, can you tell us a little bit about your approach?
Yeah, absolutely. So I basically look at the chart in terms of how much money is this going to make? Is this going to be a success or not? And then, everything else kind of follows after that. So in terms of successful movies, we have the luminaries positively impacting Jupiter, Venus, the benefic. So, and it doesn't even have to be a positive aspect, it can be a hard aspect, just any aspect at all between the luminaries and the benefics is highly beneficial when it comes to box office smash, as well as the condition of Mercury. So, Mercury is all about our money and communication and just, the way of our society. So, Mercury in a really good position, Mercury and Jupiter, things like that, you're going to really see something that does really well at the box office. I would even bring up like The Housemaid. The Housemaid just made a bunch of money,
Yeah.
and that was released during Sagittarius season, right? So we had Saturn and Pisces, and we had all of this Sagittarius stuff happening. And yes, they were making a square aspect, but they were all ruled by Jupiter at the end of the day. So that
True.
benefic that led to a success. So it's also about, the ruler of these planets as well and how they're being connected, how they're connecting. When it comes to flops, that is going to be the luminaries harshly aspecting malefic planets.
Okay.
So moon squaring Saturn, moon squaring Mars, things like that. A void moon. If a movie comes out when the moon is void, that's a pretty safe bet that that movie's not going to make a lot of money. Mercury harshly aspecting Saturn. That's probably, there's going to be limitations there as well in how much money that movie's going to make.
Interesting. And it's also interesting you're bringing in Mercury as like this sort of indicator for commerce. That totally makes sense to me. I
Mhm.
didn't really put those pieces together. And so
Yeah.
just to distill, for those who may be more at like the beginning end of astrology, the luminaries are referring to the sun and the moon, and then the benefics, Venus and Jupiter. And so any
Mhm.
aspects between Venus and Jupiter and the sun or the moon, if it's hard, if it's soft, if it's anything, it's
Mhm.
usually a positive thing. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Another thing that I found, which is huge, are the nodes.
Oh.
So the luminaries impacting the nodes in some manner. Here in traditional astrology, the moon and the nodes are connected to the public and the masses. So if you see a contact between, Venus, Jupiter, any planet really, and the nodes, that was a main thing that I found, which I found was really interesting. It was just a very interesting correlation between the two. When it came to blockbuster movies, the nodes were always involved. Movies that
Wow.
kind of became larger than life.
That makes sense. We have a few films like that for 2026, so I'm excited.
I know, yeah.
So, just in terms of what I'm bringing, I like to look at event charts as a mode of divination. I do not have the background Marissa has, but I love to banter. I love to talk. So, I will kind of speak to the initial vibes that I'm getting from these charts, and we'll just yap for a little bit and see what there is to see about these major 2026 movies. So,
Yay.
the first one that we have here is Dracula, A Love Tale. And this is an interesting movie because it actually was released in France and in Europe in 2025. And the
Mhm.
theatrical release in the United States is February 6th of 2026. But it was on TikTok for a while. People were watching 10-minute clips of the movie back to back to back. And there was a pretty significant excitement surrounding this movie. And so
Hmm.
I think that it's interesting that we have it now to be released. And personally, I was a huge fan of the movie. I'm excited to see what the collective thinks. But what stood out to me was Uranus on the Ascendant. For all of these
Hmm.
charts, we're using 11 a.m. New York time. We're going based on that first matinee, roughly speaking, as well as the earliest time that we would have in the States, which is Eastern Standard Time or Eastern Time. But Uranus on the Ascendant, for me, this is a viral component where it's like, oh, people will want to be talking about this, will want to be engaging about this. Um, what stands out to you immediately?
I mean, the Venus Mercury conjunction, that looks great. The moon trining Jupiter, like all of this seems like a lot of positive reception to me.
Okay.
When it comes to this. But yeah, no, I mean Venus and Mercury squaring Uranus, which is like this could be, like you said, yeah, very viral. This could like be like a surprising thing that people discuss. So, I mean, yeah, do you think it's gonna be, I don't know, you've already seen it?
I love it. Unfortunately, I'm
Oh.
very biased with this movie. I really enjoyed it. I will say, I know the director is questionable, and so that kind of like left a bad taste in my mouth. I do appreciate um the actor who played Caleb Landry, I believe his name is, who played Dracula.
Hmm.
Incredible. And that's kind of what I clung to in my appreciation of this movie. And
Yeah.
it's stylistic in terms of how it's created. It's really beautiful. And it was compelling. So I'm curious what you think about the Aquarius focus. So we have that big Aquarius stellium. Do you think that could be mixed reception or in terms of how people are receiving it?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I saw
Mm.
the moon is actually squaring Jupiter. I saw that. Not I said it was trine. Um, yeah, I mean, this is definitely gonna be, is it like art house vibes? I know nothing about it. Okay, so
You're right.
yeah,
You're on
so
the mark. Yes.
okay, so yeah, this is gonna be like maybe there's like something shocking happening in the movie. There's like a shocking ending or a shocking twist. But with all that Aquarius, I mean, yeah, like I would say there's some kind of larger concept at play. Like at the end of the movie, you're feeling maybe thinking about something in a different way than you went going in. Like you thought it was going to be about one thing, and then you came out, pondering something existential or something having to do with consciousness or something like that. Is there some kind of like lesson in the movie that we're not expecting? Is that
Yes.
okay?
Without giving things away, yes. I
Okay,
will
okay,
say
okay. So,
this is the only
okay.
movie I have any background on, so and we will not obviously be giving spoilers, but yes, you are also on the mark. One thing I
Okay,
think
good.
is interesting is Mars conjoining the sun, and obviously in traditional astrology, the Mars energy is kind of burned because
Hmm. Hmm.
but I
Yeah.
think in the more general perspective, for me, this is very vampiric. There is that sense of like the puncture wounds almost of Dracula and the vampires. I
I
also
like
think it's interesting that the stellium is ruled by that 29-degree Pisces Saturn, because I do think that there's a little bit of like a dreamy quality to this movie that is kind of the nature of vampire films in general. You know, they
that.
come at night and they come during your dreams and things like that. But I just think that's a nice nod to, historically what we know of the genre of vampire movies. Is there anything else you want to say about this?
I mean, yeah, that Saturn Neptune conjunction that we're experiencing right
Ooh,
now,
yep.
like in cinema, and how that's dissolving structures, and like how that's very interesting, how that's going to be, you know, received in the movie theater with like the movies that are coming out. I think when we look back at this time, it'll be very interesting to dissect movies from the Saturn Neptune era, from this conjunction.
Do you think that it will be a distinctive year of film with that conjunction? Like one that we will look back 10, 20 years from now as like, oh, that was a time.
Yeah, it seems like it because there's a lot of movies coming out this year. There's a lot of stuff that's being released. Like, I don't know. It just feels like the movie business is like, we're here, we're not going anywhere. we're still going to be releasing things. But it seems like things are changing. Like, I mean, I know we didn't have time to talk about Send Help, which just came out, but that looked very interesting. Like it, they're trying to turn things on its head. So I feel like, yeah, the movie industry is trying to survive
Yeah.
streaming and all of these things. So yeah, I don't know. It seems like it definitely could be like a blockbuster year for movies.
I would love that. I would love that to break down the monotony of the dread that we are engaging in constantly. Not to say we should look away from the dread because we can't. We have to be engaged citizens and people of the world, but still it's nice to have a balance.
Absolutely.
So next we have Wuthering Heights in quotes, specifically in quotes, and I know people will have strong feelings about this movie. They already do. But
Mm,
I wanted to include those quotes. So this comes out February 13th, 2026, and it is a romantic drama film by Emerald Fennell of Saltburn fame.
mm,
Again, we're seeing Uranus around the ascendant. It's already been going viral, and it's
hmm
been kind of harshly criticized, particularly by those who really like period pieces. There's also criticisms about Jacob Elordi playing the primary male protagonist, whose name escapes me because I've never seen or read Wuthering Heights, which is probably shameful. But anyway, what are your thoughts of this?
Heathcliff. I mean, yeah, I think that this movie is going to be huge because of the Mercury North Node conjunction and Pisces. So, yeah, I mean, the Pisces influence is fascinating as well. Once again, we've got this dreamy romantic story based on literature. Yeah, and then the moon's there as well. Also being impacted by the node. So, I definitely see this movie doing really well financially.
Okay.
Yeah, from a financial aspect. Yeah, and then Venus. Yeah, Venus is on the North Node as well. This is very like, oof, yeah. I just feel like this movie's gonna do numbers, definitely. But in terms of how people are gonna feel about it, that I don't know. What
That's
do
fair.
we think? I mean, yeah, like I don't know. Like I don't know. Because it's all this Pisces stuff, right? Mercury's
Yep.
going to be Pisces at that point. So it's more about the vibes. It's more about the feelings. It's more about, the things that we cannot, express with words necessarily that's maybe being impacted by this movie. So yeah, maybe people are going to feel a lot
Yeah.
from what they see.
I think that's a great point. I also am curious, particularly with Venus, the North Node, and Mercury, if this is one of many films, perhaps, that will set the stylistic or artistic tone moving forward for this next cycle. And so I feel like years and years ago, I mean, not that long ago, but Wes Anderson had like a very specific stylistic narrative that was pretty
Mm,
pervasive in that particular segment of cinema.
yes.
And I'm not saying that Emerald Fennell is the one who is generating this or propelling it forward by
Yeah.
herself, but there could be a story of like really falling into the dream quality. Another thing with the dream, I'm curious if part of this movie is an illusion. And so, like, we're going in as though it's Wuthering Heights, perhaps based on Heathcliff. His name's Heathcliff. That's his.
hmm
Sorry,
hmm
I forgot his name and
hmm
just came back to me.
Yeah,
But
it could be.
it could be part of a dream where the character perhaps is reading the book and then living through a dream of
Mm,
what they would like it to be like, or it could be like sort of
mm.
Inception, sort
The
of.
reimagining.
Sure,
Mm.
sure.
Right,
Uh,
because that's kind of what they've tried to say, right? Is
yeah.
that okay?
I think
Okay.
I think so. I don't know. I don't she I watched a recent interview with Emerald Fennell and she's like, "Well, how can I ever sort of she didn't say hold a candle to Wuthering Heights, but that's kind of what I took from it.
hmm
And then she said it is her reimagining, but like I don't know. It was almost as though she was going to the end point to say like, "Yes, this is unique and different," but then circled back around and said this is her take of Wuthering Heights. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I think that it's probably going to be a little bit more psychedelic and far flung than
Mm. Okay, then what we're expecting. Oh, I do have to say, remember when Dakota Johnson did Persuasion? Oh, I hated that. I hated the 21st century lingo. It
that's
was
fair.
just, I love Jane Austen. I
Yeah.
read a lot of Jane Austen and I did not like it. But what you said about Wes Anderson, right?
Yes.
Oh
Hmm.
my God, that I was, yeah, like people are going to try to duplicate this. People are going to try to duplicate this formula, the salt burn, the Wuthering Heights, this whole aesthetic, like, and this, I mean, a larger conversation about fashion and where we're going in 2026. That makes sense. Like, things are going to get more moody and gothic and
It's true.
utilitarian, maybe. Like, we're going to see more blacks and reds and that, I mean, potentially that's, yeah, I'd see a lot of people trying to copy this.
Yeah, absolutely. And then finally, just a lot of discourse. We've seen it already, so this is not like predictive necessarily, but I think the discourse specifically is this Mercury conjoining the North Node, where moving forward, there is a future of like people engaging with this particular film or perhaps the choices that were made. And I don't know if it would be positive, negative, or neutral because Mercury is not in good shape in this chart,
Mhm.
but it's also film. So I don't know if necessarily it needs to be in perfect shape for the artistic message to get through.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, just expect a lot of opinions, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Expect a lot of opinions. But who knows? Who knows how it will age, I suppose, in
True.
terms of like how people feel about it at first. It might be one of those things that takes time. I always bring up the first time I read The Great Gatsby. I was 17. It was required reading material, and I did not understand it at all. And I thought it was stupid. And then, you read it when you get older, and you're like, oh, these are concepts my 17-year-old brain couldn't, handle. So maybe it'll age differently. Who knows?
That's a really good point. I appreciate that one very much. Now, Bride. So
This is very interesting. Mhm.
there was a Pixar movie that comes out simultaneously called Hoppers, which we're not going to look at both of them, but Bride comes out at this point in time. This is the first chart that we have that is a little odd, a little bit
Mm.
odd.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's a void moon. It's a void moon,
Oh,
first of all. The moon's
okay.
void. So I don't expect this movie to do numbers. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like this looks like our first flop of the year,
Yeah.
honestly. And this is Maggie Gyllenhaal's directing this, right?
Really?
Yeah. I'm not sure if this is her
Oh,
first if this is her director debut or not. But yeah, this is her movie. But yeah, like you said, cult following, like, it was very interesting looking at movies that, originally bombed at the box office, but later on developed a cult following.
yeah.
So that is certainly a possibility with this style of movie. Everything that's happening in Aries is very fascinating, that the first decan of Aries being the leader, the person who's doing something that's never been done before, a trailblazer type. So this could be, the first of its kind of movie. I don't necessarily see it doing well at the box office, but yeah, it could definitely have like a cult kind of following for its innovation. And maybe people later on will applaud the directorial choices that were made or the cinematography or something like that. Like something's going to be different stylistically, and maybe other people, who know, will try to copy that in the future or at least give Maggie or whoever their flowers for the
Yeah.
way that they approached it.
I agree with that. I could also see this as either ahead of its time or like not well suited for the particular time with Mercury retrograde in the sign of Pisces. So
Mm,
Pisces is sort of what is communicated. I don't see Mercury being debilitated and fallen in the sign of Pisces as a deal breaker for the quality of art because Pisces and the Jupiter ruled Mercury is able to communicate abstractions in really beautiful ways. But the retrograde quality here may make it such that people are like, wait, what? Like, where was this going? Where is the plot? Or again, it may be poorly timed based on contemporary circumstances. People go in with one expectation and come out kind of scratching their heads, that type of thing.
mhm,
The other thing that really stood out to me was the debilitated Venus conjoining Neptune, conjoining the debilitated Saturn. And for me, that I, hallucinogenic is what came to mind, like maybe like a little bit more like not necessarily non-sequential, but just like where are we going? Like where are we going with this
Mhm.
story? Whoa,
Mhm.
what just happened? And there can be a little bit of extreme content here, and I see that with Mars conjoining the North Node and then
Mhm.
Venus conjoining Saturn, where it feels very harsh, very intense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, this could be a movie that it takes time for people to process, and they might have a harsh reaction to it at first,
Mm-hmm.
and then later on, may need to see it again. Or it may be the kind
Yeah.
of movie for me, which was like Black Swan and different movies I've seen where I'm like, okay, I saw it. I never have to see it again.
But
It
you
was
saw it.
great, but I
Yes.
never have to see it again kind of
Yes.
movie,
I feel
like
like,
that could be a part of it.
yeah.
That is a huge thing that you can also see in charts, a movie that you rewatch over and over again versus a movie that, is one and done. Like I got it, I appreciate it, but I never have to endure that again kind of thing. I don't know.
Message received. Yes, like we're good.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
Yeah. And briefly about Hoppers, it's a Pixar movie. And the way that I was reading that chart, it's the same chart, but through the lens of a children's movie, is it might not be a hit with the particular audience that is targeted, which is younger children, because it is speaking to environmental issues, which I think is super necessary, and really key, especially in, today's day and age. But it just seemed like it doesn't have first of all, I think it doesn't have as much bolstering preemptively before the release of the movie because I had never heard of it until I looked up movies coming out in 2026. But it just it doesn't seem like it is going to meet where kids are at mentally. And again, that doesn't mean necessarily it's a bad movie, but based on this chart for these two movies in particular, it seems like it's not doing as well as it could, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think in terms of just like um just considering something a flop in
Hmm.
terms of making back its money, I don't
Yes.
think that these movies are going to make back their money.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah.
that totally makes sense. That totally makes. So next we have the drama.
Ooh, this is a hot one.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited for this. This comes out April 3rd, 2026. Here again, we have some planets around the North Node, but they're separating. Strong focus in Aries, including the exalted Sun, domicile Venus. Moon is what? Fallen in the sign of Scorpio.
Mhm.
And there's also an interesting T-square, including if we want to consider Aquarius Pluto as part of this, the Pluto, Moon, and Venus of this chart. So tell me what you think.
I just think there's going to be a lot of discourse. And I think, whatever the twist is, I think it's going to have people really talking. And Venus, the moon, and Pluto, and all of this, like, especially Venus being in Taurus, all about security. And then we've got the moon fallen in Scorpio. These are all issues of like, emotional security versus physical security, which makes, this movie is seemingly about a wedding, but we don't really know what it's about, and we don't really know what the mystery is underneath of it. So I think there's going to be lots of talk, concepts involving, things like that, like, physical ish things that we feel through sex and love and emotion and things like that, and our feelings of security around them,
Yeah.
I just think that whatever it is going to be kind of shocking for people, and they're going to have very strong reactions to it. They're either going to love it or they're going to hate it, but either way it's going to be really, really talked about. Like, I just foresee a lot of discourse about this movie.
And it feels very like, ooh, what a twist. And it may be unexpected. And I think for me, that's coming from the sun widely conjoining Saturn and Neptune, all close to, no, they're not on the midheaven. The midheaven is where? It's still
The
Pisces.
north node's on the
Oh,
mid
yeah, the North
and
Node's there.
yeah.
Okay. That's
Mhm.
kind of nice.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
I mean, we can even beyond the Neptune of it all, we can look at Pisces and that configuration in the 10th house as sort of reflective of like, whoa, what a twist. What an exciting twist.
Well,
Um,
yeah, and Mars applying to Neptune as well. Like this is, everything's deceiving. Like looks are deceiving. This is not, what you think it's going to be about. There's deception. There's going to be major deception, I would say, in this
oh,
movie.
yeah. And I almost wonder if there is like this ploy for like cultivating security with most of the planets being ruled by the Damas or the exalted Jupiter, I should say. And then it's
Mhm,
like, oop, everything collapses into itself. And I mean, the moon is debilitated, the sun is exalted. So if we're looking at it through that lens, it could be that the female protagonist is the one
mhm,
who is like, ooh, doing things that are outside the scope of what the male protagonist knows about. But then
mhm.
again, Neptune. So I don't know. I can't be confident.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm fascinated. I'm really excited to watch this one.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just think, yeah, it's going to be so much discourse about this. There's going to be a huge conversation, I feel like, about the themes of this movie and what goes down.
I wonder if there will be like some open-ended pieces or like where people are like kind of forced to process through the pieces of the puzzle retrospectively because of Mercury forming a trine to Jupiter, which for me is like now we have to think through or like can you believe that happened like that type of process where it's like
Mhm. Hmm.
kind of exciting,
Absolutely.
exciting. Good entertainment.
Yeah. I just feel like people are going to be leaving the theater like shocked, and it's going to take some time to process all of the things that occurred in the movie, really. That's what it feels like to me. Like, yeah, it's going to be one that you really have to sit with, I
Sure,
guess. But
sure.
I think there's going to be some strong initial reactions, obviously, and then, through some time of processing it, there's going to be more discovery of whatever the themes are. And I'm going to say, obviously it's relational. So
Yeah.
with that Taurus, Aquarius, Scorpio, it's just so funny. Yeah, I feel this is heavily relational stuff that we're exploring, relational dynamics.
Mhm. Now, a question, Venus opposite Moon, that's still good for some, correct?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like, well, we've got the moon. Okay, we've got the moon hitting Pluto,
Mhm.
um, which I mean, a famous film where we had a moon Pluto square, I would say, is Titanic.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
Yes, yeah, the moon was squaring Pluto. But Pluto was in Sagittarius.
Uh,
So, I've talked to you about this before. I always find it really funny. It's the condition of those planets. And so, when Pluto was in Sagittarius, it wasn't such a bad thing to have a harsh aspect with a luminary there because it's ruled by Jupiter.
yeah.
Um, Now we have Pluto in Aquarius ruled by Saturn, so that's a totally different flavor of the film. Um, so I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, my instinct tells me that this movie's going to be huge,
Mm.
but in terms of how much money it makes, I mean, I don't know. The
So like
the
mixed
the T
indicator.
square. Hmm?
Sorry, mixed indicators, kind of, right?
Yeah, it's not yeah, this isn't a clear-cut chart, I would say, in terms of it's gonna be a huge hit kind of thing. I don't know, it's an A24 movie, right? Everybody,
You
everybody
love.
loves A24, but it's also still, some of them seep through the cracks. I don't
Yeah.
know. What do you think? What does your instinct tell you? Because I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, we've got Mercury on the midheaven.
That's good.
I mean, we've got Mercury and Jupiter in a trine, which is positive. But yeah, I don't know. The moon is not in the best position.
That's what I was thinking on a mundane level. The moon is not happy to be in Scorpio.
Yeah.
And so it could be that, like, opening weekend, people are not going out in droves. And it could
Mhm.
be for external situations, like things beyond that. But then it picks up the pace with the Mercury Jupiter trine. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a weird one. And again, I don't know if it's reflective of like, oh, here's the tempo of the movie, here's the story of the movie, which would make sense because it's
Hmm.
some sort of like switch up weird thing on the
Hmm.
relationship level. Or if it's more reflective of like, okay, this is what the people are doing at that point in time. Like they might not be taking their business to the movie theater at that particular moment, or it's probably a Friday. I should know this off the top of my head. But anyway,
Yeah.
um,
No, and that makes sense. Maybe the opening weekend isn't that great,
yeah,
but enough people talk about it and are like, you need to go watch this, that it's
yeah,
kind of like a sleeper hit and it
yes,
starts like, gaining more traction through word of mouth, really.
absolutely.
Because right now it's all secretive and then
Mhm.
people are going to go see it and be like, oh my God, this movie's crazy. And then,
Yeah.
that is going to happen. So maybe it's, not very great initially, but yeah,
Yeah.
because I just don't. I mean, it's Zendaya and Robert Pattinson, right? Like I don't see it doing bad.
Correct.
I just don't, in the grand scope of things, I don't see it doing badly. But yeah,
I think that the other thing is if it goes from theaters to streaming, if that's a transition that is happening with this movie, that could also be the point where it's like, boom, now everyone's watching it. Like truly
yeah,
available,
I
if it's accessible, people are going to be watching it.
I definitely think if it was on streaming, it would be a movie that everybody watched. Absolutely.
For
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe not great in the theater,
Yeah.
but I would go to the theater to see it. I'm excited.
Me
Okay.
too. I thought it was great. Mother Mary, I had not heard of this movie, didn't know anything about it. It's coming out April 17th, 2026. It's a psychosexual affair between a pop singer, Mary, and fashion designer, Sam.
Mm,
Exciting.
yeah, I
Pre-trailer.
know.
Very. Not new moon in Leo. Sorry, I put that. New moon in Aries. You can see that.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
with Chiron, and then we still have the domicile Venus applying to a conjunction with Uranus. Mercury conjunct Neptune. I think that's cutesy, kind of between Mars as well. Very
Mhm.
psychosexual. Very much like what an interesting thing I will say in the late winter and early spring is we have this really strong Neptunian influence, which is something that we do see among movie stars in particular. There's often the angularity of Neptune or the prominence of Neptune, at least in my research. And it's really very prominent in this season. And so I think that that's exciting just for the artistry of it all.
Mhm.
But this is a theme that we are sort of seeing on a recurring basis across the first several months of 2026. Beyond that, Salacious with Mars as part of the conversation. I also see this as like maybe for the cinema enthusiasts. Do you know what I mean? Like the people who want to have a trippy time or like want to go on the journey into the bizarre. That's kind of what stood out to me. What do you see?
Absolutely. I mean, this Aries stellium is crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But it feels very fitting, We've got darkness, we've got red, there's blood, there's all these art house movies being made. I feel like people aren't going to understand it at first, maybe. I mean, yeah, it is a new moon.
Mhm.
But the moon is separating, so it's technically at this point, I would say it's technically void. I
Mhm.
mean, I think the only thing it's doing is applying, it's an applying square to Pluto. That's the only aspect that the moon is making. So I'm not sure how well received this will be, but this chart I think is for the limited release. So
Okay.
there's a lot of mystery around this movie. So I think the April 17th is the limited release, and then it might be released to the public a week later. So
Okay.
maybe that's why, the initial reaction is not going to be like amazing. But once it hits theaters for everywhere, like who knows? But I mean, Jupiter is not doing anything in this chart.
Oh.
So I don't, that's definitely not a positive, I would say. Um, there's something disconnected and disjointed about this chart, because
Yep.
all the planets aren't interacting with each other. There's no connection there. So I'm wondering if it's going to be more about shock value and
Ooh.
less about the plot.
Yeah.
And
I
then
that would make sense.
people getting maybe upset about that. If you're a person like me, I mean, what comes to mind for me is that movie Mother by
Yes,
Darren
yes,
Aronofsky.
yes.
I hated that movie. I hated that movie. But I'm like, I, I appreciate things coming full circle, me gathering something like the fullness of a plot, and everybody's different in what they go to a movie and what they're looking to appreciate. And so, me, I don't appreciate shock for shock's sake. I need there to be some kind of reason behind it. I need some intellectual reason, reasoning, that sort of thing. So maybe this could be like a little mother situation where it's like, it's crazy for no reason, but it's not really tethered to anything. It's not really tethered to a point of view or what is the director really trying to say? What is the screenwriter trying to say? And then the actors are just there doing their job, but like, what is it rooted in? Is there any purpose behind this movie besides just being a psychosexual affair, like whatever that may be.
Yeah, and Mars conjoining Saturn, just in terms of the essence of that signature, when it happens, when it does come around, it is like grinding to a halt. Everything just like it turns into sludge and it slows down. And I don't think that the tempo of this movie is slow. I'm not suggesting that, but there may just be a sense of like, and that was it, like kind of like, oh, okay, like
Yeah.
so this is what we're left with. Um,
Yeah.
I will say in its favor, this huge Aries stellium is ruled by the domicile Aries Mars, but applying to Saturn, the flavor is very different, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and then Mercury caught in the crossfire between Neptune, Mars, and Saturn. I just
Mhm.
feel like whatever messaging is there is gonna get lost somehow. Like, I mean, it's gonna get distorted. Like maybe they got distracted by other things, by the flash and making it look certain. Like this could be like heavily artistic, like really focused on, the photography of it all and, the looks and the imagery and the costumes and everything. And maybe other things can fall by the wayside, like the dialogue.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Maybe there won't be a lot of dialogue. Maybe it's more about moods and vibes.
Yeah, that would make sense. And I'm looking at all of the areas. I'm like, where's the style? And then Venus in Taurus. Like, yeah, that totally makes sense. That
Hmm.
100% makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It
Oh,
just feels like there's missing pieces to this chart. Like it's not something that's been fully fleshed out and connected. So it'll be interesting to see how that translates to the movie. It feels like somebody focusing too much on one thing
mhm.
at the hindrance of another, when other things getting lost in the sauce and forgotten.
Yeah. And just when you were sharing about Mercury with Mars and Neptune, what came to mind is what's the vision? Like, what was the cohesive vision? And I don't know if there is one. I don't know if
Yeah,
the ship is set on a course or if it's just kind of vibing in the middle of the ocean. So it'll be interesting. I
exactly.
kind of want to see it now.
I
Not
know. I definitely
because,
think that we should see it.
yeah,
I definitely think we
care
should
about the
see it.
plot, but I do want to see
Follow
how
up. Yes.
energy shakes out.
Yeah, no, I mean, Anne Hathaway is just about to have a banner year. It's crazy. This is like one of three movies we're discussing with her.
Yeah, she is all over the place. Toy Story 5. This is kind of you. It's not April 17th. Pretend that's not there. It's June 19th, 2026. I do know that.
Mhm.
Can you please tell me what is outstanding about this movie for you?
I mean, well, Moon on the South Node just feels so nostalgic. It's insane, This is the fifth iteration of this franchise. I had no idea that they were going to even make another, but I really enjoyed the fourth one. I think the fourth one came out, I don't remember what time frame it was, but it was very significant, Andy leaving for college and all of that, and childhood and being left behind. But yeah, the Moon with the South Node. It's just crazy, but yeah, and then squaring Uranus on the midheaven.
Yep.
It just feels like this movie is gonna be like really big hit. Like I think it's gonna make a lot of money. And then we've got the Mercury Jupiter conjunction in Cancer. Talk about
Ah,
nostalgia and mothering and nurturing and all those things and care and just having something feel good in the movies. Like it just feels so on the nose that people are going to have a very positive impression of this movie and it's going to make them cry and make them feel a lot of things. And I also think it's definitely going to do numbers. It's going to
Yeah.
make a lot of money.
I could see this as a point of connection too with Mercury, Neptune, or excuse me, Mercury, Jupiter in the 11th house specifically, where there's just that collective sense of nostalgia, that collective sense of like a warm blanket to wrap yourself in. I
Mhm.
also kind of found it interesting that the plot is surrounding a tablet. Like there is a tablet as who might be a villain, perhaps, which is also
Mhm.
compelling. And for me, that's very much Uranus on the midheaven, where there is this conversation about the role of technology, how it is useful, perhaps how it is problematic, what that does to, contemporary three-dimensional world play for children and their adults and so on and so forth. But that is something that stood out to me as like worth watching. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. That makes sense. Yeah, they're going to have some kind of point of view and
Mm.
it's going to make people question their choices. I see like a very emotional connection happening to that. Just, realizing I need to put my phone down. I need to be more present in my life and what are these devices doing and how are they taking away from my play and my imagination or my connection to my own children. Yeah, absolutely. I just think that this chart is just so on the nose for this movie. That's why
Yeah.
I wanted to
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about it.
I think that it's super appropriate as well. And I'm trying to think when the first Toy Story movie came out because I'm curious the activation of the original movie with all of these subsequent iterations. So two, three, four, and now five. It would be interesting to see how it was activated. Of course, I don't know it off the top of my head. Of course, I'm just thinking of it now, but that would be fun to consider.
Oh my God, I know. I wish I had it. I want to look it up real quick.
You are welcome to if you want to, but we can also tag that on at the end if you want.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say about this chart in particular?
I mean, I think we covered it all. This feels like pretty cut and dry to me, but I do think that it's going to be a surprise to people how much it kind of gut punches them emotionally, I would say.
Yeah. Yup. Mercury, Jupiter conjunction in
Mhm.
Cancer. The Devil Wears Prada 2. I believe this is May 1st. Is it? Yes, it is because I could see it on the movie poster. So what do we have going on here? Is this a full moon? No, my notes are it is a full moon. Okay, yay. We're
Oh.
in the right direction here.
Mhm.
It is a full
Mhm.
moon ruled by Mars in the sign of Aries, which I think is great. Mars is
Mhm.
close to the midheaven.
Mhm.
What else do we have going on? Moon trine Jupiter, is that correct? Yes, and it's applying. It's wide, but it's applying.
Mhm.
So, based on your methods, that may be a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, a full moon, like it's not bad. And then yeah, the moon with the nodes, yeah, I don't see this movie not doing numbers.
Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't look like anything's necessarily hindering its ability to make money. I
great.
think what's really fascinating about this chart is Saturn and Mars on the midheaven and maybe it not being as fun as the original, it not being received as well necessarily. um yeah, because of that happening in Aries, like I'm not sure, and when you compare it to the original chart of The Devil Wears Prada, we had Venus on the midheaven in Gemini, the moon was in Virgo, like we had all this going on. But there was a Mars Saturn conjunction in the original chart, which I find really fascinating. So we had a separating Mars Saturn conjunction in Leo by 6 degrees in the original chart. And then here we have a separating Mars Saturn conjunction in Aries by what, 7 degrees. So
Yeah,
that's kind of crazy. So I mean, that was already present in the first chart. It definitely didn't hinder the movie's success.
yeah.
But yeah, those being on the midheaven, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that it's going to be like, yeah, we saw it because it's the remake, but it's obviously not as good as the original. And when we go back to rewatch movies, we're going to rewatch the original, is
Yeah.
my initial instinct.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I'm looking at that Mercury Chiron conjunction, and this is the first time that I have seen this. I when I pulled the chart before, that was not on my mind at all. I do know that this is based on a book, so I would hope that the script is good. But
Mm,
I'm curious if there is like an acting, like one of the actors just falling flat, obviously not having their heart into it, or the plot line is just like not as compelling as the initial one because there really was this sort of incredible rivalry functionally in the primary characters of the first one. And what does that look like in the second part? I am not familiar with the book, so I can't speak to it. But Mercury Chiron is just a little bit, especially in the 10th house. So as you noted, like if they've already had the Saturn Mars conjunction, even if it is in a different sign, that's sort of kind of par for the course. And that
mhm.
could be power struggles. That's power struggles because of the sort of Anne Hathaway character versus her boss in the first one. So it could be that sort of echoed. Um,
Yeah.
the other factor that stands out to me beyond that is it's Venus return season for the Devil Wears Prada initial film.
Hmm. Yep, Venus is in Gemini in both of these movies, almost to the degree. We got 7 degrees for the first chart, and now it's at 9 degrees.
Ah.
So the Venus, that's just wild.
Yeah, it really is.
It's just crazy how life works, and the cycles of the planets. But I mean, yeah, I was thinking like Mars and Saturn on the midheaven is like either, there's a lot of frustrating tension and power struggles in the movie, but
Yeah.
also maybe is it tedious to watch?
Yeah, that would make sense. That would make sense. Yeah.
Is it gonna be tedious to watch?
Mm.
Which I don't want, but like it's such a beloved movie. Like Devil Wears Prada is such a like that's a movie that people rewatch over and over again. It's a
Yes.
comfort film.
Mhm.
And so yeah, but we've got Venus sextiling Saturn, like it, I don't know. It might be one of those things where it's like, I didn't love the script, but I loved X, Y, and Z, so I'm okay with it. Maybe it's just going to be like a lukewarm reception. But the full moon illuminating everything, yeah, I feel like there's going to be a lot of eyes on it. It's going to attract people in droves to the theater for sure. People are going to go to the theater for this one.
Yeah. It could be that it's also a domestic hit rather than becoming more international because Mercury is ruling the 12th
Mhm.
house, conjoining Chiron, and the 12th house has distant lands traditionally associated with movement in some capacity. Then we also see in the Placidus house system, which is what we currently have, Neptune and Saturn in the ninth house. So there could just be a sense of like, this is very American culture, which would make sense. But yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a little expert delineation right there,
We'll see.
Jess.
I
That's
could be very
perfect.
wrong. We're going
Yeah,
based on that.
no, I love that. I love that. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that'll be really interesting to see how it does numbers internationally. Well, I mean, the original chart wasn't that spectacular, honestly. If
Yeah.
we look, I mean, it's not
Yeah.
like it was that amazing. Like, I mean, we had the sun sextiling moon. The sun was trining Jupiter and Uranus. I mean, yeah, it just wasn't like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it had good stuff between it. I guess,
Okay.
yeah. It's not, yeah, but the new chart, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. The Odyssey. I feel like you want to talk about this a little bit. I pulled miscellaneous things. So we have the Moon Venus conjunction, which I think is so cute. Imagine people being born with that and just having that. I mean, that happens somewhat regularly, but still, that's really cute. Um, and then the Leo Jupiter opposite Aquarius Pluto. For
Mhm.
for me, that would make sense in terms of something over the top, something extreme. And so, I don't think is that a money indicator to you or not necessarily?
Yeah, Moon on the South Node, same thing, with Toy Story,
Mhm.
traditionally that is like boom, that's going to be a hit. Like that is going to be some kind of, even though it's the South Node, I understand, we're draining of resources there, it may not be. But usually, I mean, especially, yeah, the moon's on the North Node, which I think it definitely was when Titanic came out. That, the nodes involved at all is usually, money.
Okay.
So, and then we've got on top of that, we've got a moon Venus conjunction. So you're like money, 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 right? And then but the big hampering here, I would say, is that it's all ruled by Mercury, commerce, and it's a retrograde Mercury squaring Saturn.
Oh, I did not register that at all. That's a really good
So
point.
that is why I find this chart fascinating because I mean, it is so huge. Like, I read the Odyssey, like, it was required reading, like, freshman year, honors English, like, kind of thing. And I do think that there's going to be a lot of marketing towards this. I'm sure there's a lot of money behind it, and people are predicting it to be a huge blockbuster hit. And I just have to stop myself because of that retrograde Mercury squaring Saturn. So it's like, yes, this does look like it's supposed to make money in theory. It's supposed to make a lot of money, but so that is why I'm fascinated by this chart.
They are trying to get some type of major awards out of this movie. I think that's what they're banking on. Look at the cast. I didn't realize this. It's Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway. Like Anne Hathaway again.
Anne
And
Hathaway,
again. And
stop. She's
again.
working overtime. Oh my God.
Does she sleep? We
That's
don't know.
crazy. Oh my God. We
What
should
are her
this
charts doing that this is obviously she's always been an A-list celebrity, but what's going on
we
that
need to look at her chart
absolutely
ASAP.
shining like this? That's wild.
What?
It's just wild to see all of these things going on for her. It's
Yeah, this it's sponsored by we don't have a birth time on her.
that's so disappointing.
Sponsored
She's
by
Scorpio? She's a Scorpio, maybe?
she's got a Scorpio Sun Jupiter conjunction. Sun
Cute.
Jupiter Venus conjunction in Scorpio.
Okay. So she's getting
Wow.
trying to
Ruled by a Capricorn Mars. She's got Mars on the South Node.
interesting.
Where's and then yeah, she's got a Saturn Pluto conjunction in Libra, ruled by that Venus. Yeah, okay. So what's happening for her then? Where are the nodes? The nodes and then Pluto. Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I don't
Where are
know.
her notes? Is it not?
Um, well, yeah, her north node's sorry, her north node's in Cancer. Her north node is
Oh,
in
okay.
Cancer.
Okay.
Her
Oh, well,
north node is in Cancer, so I thought, but then um we've got the Aries stuff so the Aries stuff, I mean, Saturn and Neptune entering Aries is directly squaring, it's squaring her south nodes, or squaring her nodes is at the
sure.
bending, sorry. So I mean, yeah, that could just be like her putting in work overtime, I guess. Like her visibility, like, I mean, the nodes could be connected to her fame, right?
Yeah.
You could
One thing
you could
that I
make
will
that
say,
correlation. Mm-hmm.
this is more anecdotal and observational, but with Jupiter, I think a lot of people expect these really big happenings when there's the conjunction because it's the greater benefic. So if you have a conjunction to a planet or to a north node or south node from Jupiter, it's like, okay, where's the payoff? And what I have noticed is Jupiter tends to plant seeds and then it starts to crop up. And then it's harvested later. And it's like undisclosed when it will be. Again, anecdotal. I'm not saying that this is a universal rule, but
Mm-hmm.
if her North Node is in the sign of Cancer, as she's been filming these movies, that has
Mm-hmm.
been lingering. And here is the payoff. And
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I mean, it takes time to, get signed on, and then pre-production and production, and then they edit, and then it finally comes out. And it was like, oh, I made this movie a couple years ago.
yeah, yeah,
I
absolutely.
remember people like hinting at it, like a couple, like it's been years now. They're like 2026 is going to be Anne Hathaway's year because all these movies are coming out, and then they finally all are.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good
It's
point.
it's so fun. When she made them all, I doubt she knew that they would all be back to back, because that I'm sure like it's decided later, like they all happen to come out at the same time kind of thing. Like, because I don't know who would plan that? I feel like our marketing team, like they're just gonna be working overtime, having to go from one movie to another, really, honestly. Like, I don't know if that's ideal for the actor. I
No, I
mean, they're probably the last, they're the last person in command. Everyone else is like, this is when I'm releasing my movie. And the
yeah.
actor's like, okay, this is the release date, but I literally have a movie coming out 2 weeks later. Okay,
Yeah.
I've got a huge movie coming out 2 weeks after my, art house film. And it's like, how are you going to give attention to all those movies?
I know.
Anyway,
The interviews and like trying to keep up with all of the tour things. Wow, it'll be a lot. I'm curious, before I forget, because my brain will let it go. Do you think the
yeah,
Jupiter-Pluto opposition could reflect a lot of money put into the budget for this film? Perhaps with not necessarily with the effects and like the that type of piece where it's like throw it all in.
absolutely. I think absolutely. I think that maybe they put so much into this movie and the the payoff is not, what they're anticipating. Maybe there's some lack of foresight there
Yeah.
in terms of what's going to happen come release day, I
Okay.
guess. I mean, yeah, the moon the moon Venus conjunction, it seems really nice, but when you come back to that retrograde Mercury, it's like,
Good
yeah,
point.
I just don't know that this movie is going to, I feel like it's going to fall short of expectations. And this has happened a lot. What was that movie they did with, remember Colin Farrell and Angelina Jolie? It was like Alexander. Like they make these huge period pieces and they have everything right. They have the hot movie stars, they've got all this stuff. They've got the big budget, and then the movie comes out and it's a total flop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can't say that I ever saw that movie, so I don't know why it was a flop. But, maybe it comes back to investing in the wrong things. Like maybe the script sucks. At the end of I think, like I think they focus on all the big budget stuff that they forget about the script and they forget about building a cohesive story that you want someone to watch.
Yeah.
Not only do you want it to make a bunch of money, but you also want them to maybe want to watch it again to
Exactly.
continue making money.
Invested.
And if the dialogue's too tedious and the movie's too long and blah blah blah, and you have all these outstretched concepts without execution, then yeah, it's gonna fall flat. It's just they've done it a lot. There's been a lot of movies, period pieces, where it's like, woo, and like, yeah, that's Jupiter Pluto. I would say that's the Jupiter Pluto of it all. Like
That's
they're like, let's go, and then the movie just completely falls short.
Yeah. That totally makes sense to me. And it's disappointing, but
I
not
mean,
all.
yeah, and it's square moon. We got the moon Venus squaring Mars.
One thing that I will say that's standing out to me is like, of course, the Odyssey is coming out when Saturn's in the sign of Aries. Like that feels correct. Where,
Mhm.
Odysseus is trying to get back home and he's like this hero's journey. It's peak Saturn and Aries behavior.
This is so on the nose. Yes, I love it. I love it. Yes. I mean, we've got the sun is not doing anything.
No.
But its only applying aspect is a very loose, applying conjunction to Jupiter,. But it's not there yet. If it was closer, it would be a different story,
Yep.
but it feels a little too far away for me. Like it's like almost there, but it's going to miss the mark.
Yeah, absolutely. And much like Odysseus, the sun has to travel past its opposition with Pluto, like, fighting the sirens and doing all of the things with the Cyclops to get to that Jupiter. And so it's just like it's not there. It just isn't there. Yeah.
Yes. I
That's
love that. That's so true. That's so true. He's almost there. He's almost there.
goodness.
I love it. This is going to be a really fascinating one to watch. It just feels like it's not fully fledged in some way.
I hear that. Verity. So this is October 10th, 2026. This is a new moon ruled by a debilitated retrograde Venus in the sign of Scorpio, exactly square Mars.
Yeah,
And
it
that's
looks bad. It looks bad.
I am surprised they are giving Colleen Hoover another movie because
Yes.
Didn't we just do this?
Yeah, this is fascinating to me. But maybe they did this before,
Oh, yep.
before.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah, maybe this was in production before because it takes a couple years. But my sister read this book and she loved it. It was her favorite one by this author, and she recommended I read it. I didn't get a chance to finish it for some reason. Maybe I'll go back and read it before it comes out, probably. I'm sure she'll make me read it before it comes out so we can see it together. But yeah, I just think that this is fascinating in terms of all the drama surrounding Colleen Hoover and her move and her books,
Mhm.
and It Ends With Us, and another, one of her things coming out starring Anne Hathaway. But the chart, just looking at the chart on its own, I just don't see it being received well at all. We've
See,
got
oh, go for it.
we've got the sun opposing Saturn. We've got the moon squaring Neptune. We've got Mercury squaring Pluto, Venus squaring Mars. Like Mercury squaring Mars. Like it's just one thing after another, honestly. Yeah. What do you think?
With Jupiter on the South Node, I think that the sort of reputation precedes the movie in terms of either the author, the book, or both. And
Mm.
I think that could be perhaps manifesting as people go to see it because they are still part of the Colleen Hoover clique of readers type. Um, or they could be hate watching it. I don't know. I am looking at the South Node moment with Jupiter as like there was something that was already existing beforehand that informs how people are approaching this.
Oh yeah, I think we have different charts. Oh, whoops, it's not a big deal.
Well, this might be the wrong part.
It's okay. It's okay. My chart is October 2nd,
Oh,
and yeah, my chart's October 2nd, which is, yeah, it's a Friday. Um yeah, the moon, because I see that this chart is a new moon
you
in
were
Libra.
right.
So it
You were
looks way
correct.
different. It looks way better. I was like, wait, the moon's in Libra? It was like, that looks nice. Um,
So tell me, where is the moon? Because you were correct. I don't know where I got October 10th from, but it is October 2nd.
oh no, it's not a big deal. Yeah, the moon is at 27 degrees Gemini on October 2nd. So it's pretty much void. I mean,
That's
its next applying aspect is going to be a square to Neptune.
well,
Um,
okay. Not great. Not doing
yeah, so yeah. But Jupiter, it's crazy. Jupiter is going to be making such moves in just like a week because it's going from, yeah, it's transitioning, it's moving fast. Jupiter's on the move at this point because it's going from 19 degrees and it'll already be 21 degrees at that point. So it'll be in the closer aspect to the nodes a week later. It's only 10 degrees apart a week ahead.
okay. Okay.
But but still, still, I would say the Jupiter South Node co-presence is still there.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely. I would still, yeah.
Well, there's a story to be had, and it's not in the chart, but it doesn't sound great, is what I'm gathering. Is that correct? Or
I I mean, like, I guess you could say that the viewer might feel betrayed in some manner because it's a
okay.
book that people love and they're like expecting one thing and then they're gonna feel disappointed. And I
Uh,
do say this with some bias. I don't enjoy Dakota Johnson. I think Dakota Johnson's in this.
okay. I did not know that.
Yeah, apparently she's
I
in
don't
it. Dakota Johnson, Anne Hathaway. I'm not sure who else, but she disappoints me as an actress. So,
know. That's fair.
it's always like you see these beloved movies and you want to see your character brought to life, and then if you see an actress that you didn't picture in your head that doesn't do it justice, like people might feel that way. They might
Gotcha.
feel unsatisfied from this movie. I'm
Okay.
getting heavily unsatisfied.
Certainly makes sense. We have Dune Avengers. Tell me this is the right date. If it's not, we're gonna pause it. We'll redraw it. But I'm pretty positive that it's December 18th. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
December
says on
18th.
Avengers. Okay.
Yes.
So, what do we have? Here we do have Jupiter closely conjoining the South Node, and this is where I do feel comfortable saying the reputation precedes these films because these are all sequels. These are sequels. We've been doing this, we've been invested. These are huge blockbuster hits, and I think that the Jupiter South Node conjunction absolutely reflects that. Beyond that, we have the Moon Saturn conjunction, it is separating. There's also a wide, very wide, but applying trine between the transiting moon and Jupiter. The only reason I'm mentioning that is because the moon clips along pretty quickly, so that trine will be happening relatively shortly after
Mhm.
the launch. Venus is not great. What can you do? At least it's direct. And is there anything else outstanding? That's kind of what's showing up for me. What are you?
Mhm. I mean, yeah, Mercury on the midheaven. I just think it's fascinating, how blockbuster movies all come out around like Thanksgiving and Christmas, and there's always like some Sagittarius stuff happening. So the larger than life Jupiter right there, it's like always the blockbuster hits that come out at the end of the year. Um, yeah, Jupiter on the South Node ruled by a Sagittarius sun. It's like, I don't know, it just feels like I know that these people don't have astrologers, but it's sometimes it feels like they do when they elect like this for these huge movies because the movies are going to do numbers. They're going to do
Yeah.
really well when it comes to money. And like being a global success. I feel like you can't argue that. But yeah, the the Venus in Scorpio not making any aspects at all, like completely unexpected Venus, that is really fascinating. Because anytime that a planet is not being aspected in this kind of chart, it's just like there's something missing, there's something not being touched on, you're being left wanting, like there's something, it's not the best.
My question is, why is there not a sextile showing up in terms of lines here? It must be something I have with my formatting because this counts, right? This is direct. We don't
Yeah,
have a
mine doesn't show up either, which is interesting. Yeah, you're right. Because I mean, I guess you would say that it's separating. It's a
Oh,
separating.
because Venus is faster, of course. You're right.
Yeah, so it's separate. But yeah, like yeah, I noticed that too. Like sometimes wider aspects are given connection, and then these separating ones aren't at all,
Yeah.
even though they're only like, yeah, 3 degrees separate. So yeah, technically
That's
Venus
separating.
was, yeah, Venus was doing something. And I would, okay, so it's not completely on its own.
But it is in that you are acknowledging it's separating, which is correct. And like I think,
Yeah.
especially in more traditional frameworks, the applying aspect is what matters. And so the separate
Yeah.
is kind of not held in the same esteem
Yeah.
necessarily. But that's still
Yeah.
so weird. It's just kind of hanging out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then the moon separating from Sat. What do you think in Aries?
So what I think is interesting is the moon is applying to a trine with Mercury and it's happening fast. And for me,
Hmm.
you mentioned commerce, like commerce is the only word
Hmm.
my brain wants to say right now. So that's what I'm
Hmm.
gonna say. But
Hmm.
income, like that feels like, and the money's coming, and the money's coming, and the money's coming. But the
Yeah.
separating conjunction here, maybe we put out a lot of money, like we've done a lot to get to where we are. I would expect the effects are through the roof
Hmm.
here in terms of, I mean, we know what it is to be watching an Avengers movie. We know what it is to watch a Dune movie. So like, I don't think that that's a reach. But it seems like even though a lot of money was put out, here comes the income, like, and it's coming back and it's rolling in. Um,
Yeah. Absolutely. There's a lot of pressure on this to make money.
yes, yes. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Mercury on the midheaven is just so on the nose. It's just going to
Yeah.
be all anybody talks about for those few days, I guess. It's going to have its moment in the cycle.
Is this the closing chapter of Dune? Do we know that for the initial? It has to be, right? How many times?
I hope I don't I yeah, I haven't seen the Dune movies.
I understand.
I know people are like, what? But aren't they really long?
Yes, the Aquarian who lives in my home loves them, and so that's why I've seen them, but it's not something that I personally would seek out. The Dune books are like directly above me and the desk that I'm at currently because he loves Dune.
Aren't they
Um,
huge? Those are huge too.
Little like tomes, like serious books. But I know to some extent Paul is like the chosen one in the Dune universe, as I couldn't even tell you what. He'd be upset, Trevor would be upset that I don't know the proper title here, but that again is very Saturn and Aries. And if it's the closing chapter, at least of this particular franchise, it's appropriate. It's appropriate because, as far as I understand, he is supposed to be doing well by his people and sort of, I don't think succeeding universally because there are 1,000 books in the series. So I don't think it's like, and we end with this huge high note. But again, the hero's journey is very much part of the conversation, I think, this year. With the caveat, of course, that when, Saturn was in the sign of Pisces, we were getting Dune movies as well. So I don't think it's the beginning and the end of everything, but it is an interesting recurrent narrative.
Absolutely. I just looked it up. Apparently, Dune 4 is happening.
Okay, so we're really just going through all the books. So we're going to go through all of them, which I mean, it'll be fun to watch, I guess, for some people. Uh,
Not us.
correct. That is correct.
And what's the Avenger? I don't even know anything about the Avengers Doomsday. Like, I didn't know that they were gonna do this. I mean, I guess it makes sense that they're doing this, but it's like, who's gonna be in it? I mean, are there new people? Is it? I don't know.
It's
Is
none of
this?
my business. I will watch it. Like if it's before me, I will be so locked in for that 2 hour block. But otherwise, none of my business. I don't know.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah,
we
no,
already did it. I already thought we did it with the hand thing with the stone.
right.
I thought
The
that was it.
Infinity Stones,
There
right?
we go.
It was like, oh, like we did it. It was done. We got like,
One more
I
time.
don't know. That was just like, I don't know. Yeah, I thought Endgame wrapped everything up.
Endgame,
Like that was the
literally.
whole purpose. Is like it was over. We were like, oh my God. And then here we are back again. Like,
Who'd have thought? And here we are.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, Tony Stark died. I was like, this is
Yes,
over.
it
Tony
has to.
Stark is gone. Like, we're
He's back.
he's,
Sure, he's back as like a hologram or something.
it's
But anyway, I do have a question for you. I can't
Mhm,
avoid the Grand Trine in this chart, but of course, the actual Grand Trine would need 3 planets. Do you
mhm.
consider this at all or no, because Chiron is part of it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think that we can do what we want.
I love it.
Like,
Love that spirit.
like you can make meaning out of anything. Yeah, I know. I felt the same way about, I mean, Chiron, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know Chiron's influence enough to see like, but like, I mean, I guess off the cuff it can be like wounding, and it's about heroes and the struggle that they're going through, and this is all happening in fire sign, so it's an action movie. It's very action oriented. So I mean, there could definitely be themes of emotional wounding and healing and things happening like that simultaneously with them saving the world, whatever
Yeah.
it is that they want to do. So, yeah, there could be like some, maybe there's a larger concept at play than what we normally see from a Marvel movie, maybe. But yeah, I mean, it does. It looks beautiful to me. So, I mean, I would consider it. Right? I mean, what would you think?
I co-sign everything that you shared with the additional caveat of like redemption arc probably into these,
Mm,
where it's like, no, there's no, but that feels so trite and that feels so much a part of these movies. So I don't think that's like revolutionary, but I just
yeah,
feel like, and we're definitely gonna lose and die here, but just kidding. And then like it switches around and it's like a
yeah,
story of hope. I think Dune in particular, based on how it was written, at least the parts that I know of it, there can be that sense of redemptive hope of something beyond what we are currently navigating. And so that could be something that people can anchor into. And you know, ideally, art in its various forms moves us internally. It elicits some type of emotional response, and so there may be that sense of like can do it, or like not necessarily community, because the strong Aries signature is very much like pull yourself up by your own bootstraps type of action film. But it
Hmm.
does seem to sort of endorse this sense of like we can do it, or like I can do it, that type of energy. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I mean, all of it just feels so on the nose, all of this fire energy for these action films, but they're also not reinventing the wheel.
Correct. There's,
We
yeah.
don't, yeah,
Well,
we're not seeing a lot of innovation here.
this is certainly not an art house film set.
Yeah, like from the earlier stuff that's coming out, the beginning of the year where we're seeing all of that Aquarius and the Uranus of it all and all that happening where it's like, oh, we're doing different stuff here. This is not this is the machine and the
Yes.
machine is producing what it produces and it's doing it for a large amount of people.
Maybe that's why Venus is in the sign of Scorpio in this space, because it's not that artistic sort of messaging that we see with these more like niche films. That's irrelevant. That doesn't matter. What matters
Mm-hmm.
is the action. What matters is this hero's journey or this particular set of characters. And that's it. Like very character driven rather than mood driven or like sort of energy tone setting stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, it's just so funny. Venus is just hanging out by itself. In Scorpio, in Scorpio of all places, it just makes, these movies are about action for sure. We're not talking about our feelings. We're not,
Not even a little bit.
not even a little bit. We're just like, we have to save the world. That's all that matters. We're running
Keep
out
up,
of
keep up, keep
time.
up.
We've got to save the world. We don't have time for this. You can't have your existential crisis in this movie.
Very much the case. All we have. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And for everyone who watched, thank you so much for joining us. Again, my name is Jess of Spicy Gemini Astrology, and
I'm Marissa, Marissa Lee Astrology. Thank you so much for having me.
it was so much fun. This is a joy. And part of wanting to do this is just exploring the sort of depth with which you can utilize astrology and play with astrology and sort of work with its themes in fun contemporary ways, including like contemporary cultural things. So if
Yeah.
you like this, Marissa, where can they find you?
You can find me on Threads, Instagram, Marissa Lee Astro. You can find me on my website, marissaleeastrology.com. Yeah, I do readings and I work parties. Those are really fun. And yeah, and I'm starting a baby astro course. I've had one student so far and I think I might have more. So if people want to reach out and learn, mentorship, I've tested that. So that's really fun as well. But yeah, I love connecting with people and sharing. But I think a goal of mine is to find a way to teach more and
Yeah.
like share my methods. So I definitely want to be blogging more in the future and kind of sharing what I found in terms of like research that I've found interesting.
You are so gifted in that space. I like am. Oh, anytime I see any of your delineations, I'm like, yes, like
Thank
time to dive
you.
in. It's incredible the work that you do.
Thank
I
you.
strongly
And
encourage anyone who's watching to follow along with Marissa. You can find me at www.spicygeminiastrology.com. I'm Spicy Gemini on Blue Sky, but Spicy Gemini memes on Instagram and Threads. I have like 1,000 different accounts. Should I have one handle? Of course, do I? Absolutely not. This is who I am. Anyway, um, thank you again so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful day or night wherever you're watching from. Bye.
bye.